Alright, so he was clearly building you up for something else.
Yeah.
We did have another one of these planned, but my DVD just up and vanished out of thin air. So once that is found, that one will be done.
Yes.
It's one I'm really excited to do, too. I was really disappointed I couldn't find it. So, very last minute, I just decided on this one. Because this is one where I was like, well, we could do those, and I really am looking for an excuse to talk about Killer Joe.
Yes.
And Bug would be its best bet, even though story-wise they're not related at all. But I figured, fuck it. I'm sure you're not too, discriminate or anything. So we have two movies that are obviously very similar in the way that they're both William Friedkin movies, written by Tracy Letts, based off of plays by Tracy Letts. And both are very set in very confined areas and kind of start off normal, and then by the end you have to run and tell the nearest friend what all crazy fucking shit you just saw.
Yes, indeed.
So, yes, I'd say they're close enough.
We'll go with that.
Now, and it's really funny to think about when you read up on it, one of these, I want to say I'm almost positive it was Killer Joe. Apparently Tracy Letts wrote it while he was completely drunk.
I'd buy that.
So, that's fun to kind of have a hold on when you think about it. So, let's, we're going to start with Bug, actually. I remember seeing the advertisements for Bug, and the advertisements didn't really tell you what it was about. You just kind of saw that overhead shot of the city and her hotel, or motel. And you could never really get a grasp on what it was even about. You just knew it was a horror movie, and it was probably very unsettling. Especially since they love to plaster from the director of The Exorcist on all of William Friedkin's movies now. I mean, not that, you wouldn't, it's just, he has a lot of movies, like The French Connection. So, for a while there, you don't really know where this movie is going, because for about the first 45 minutes or so, it's just the story of how she goes to a bar with her friend, and she's introduced to Michael Shannon, and she's being harassed by her husband, Harry Connick Jr., who just got out of prison. And she's just kind of holed up in this motel, and she and Michael Shannon are kind of hanging out and getting to know each other. Very nervously, because she makes the joke that, what if he's like an axe murderer or something while he's in the bathroom? And then he's acting a little weird, like he's really shy, and then he just kind of comes out of the bathroom and interrupts her conversation and says, by the way, I'm not an axe murderer, I'm not.
It's Michael Shannon now.
So yes, perfectly cast, by the way. He also played this part on stage.
Nice.
So I think he's the only one that's kind of a returning cast member. Now, the issue here is that Ashley Judd's character has gone through a very traumatizing experience because her son disappeared when he was 6 years old. And Harry Connick Jr. is this very, violent, intimidating person that is basically stalking her. And she could just be on the verge of losing her mind at any minute. She's in a very, that kind of place right now. On top of the fact that she's on a lot of drugs. So anything is possible with this character, and she just so happens to meet Peter, Michael Shannon's character, tonight. And after a night of steamy lovemaking ensues, Michael Shannon wakes up with a jolt and says that he's just been bit by something. A bed bug, perhaps. So, we just kind of have... It just seems kind of a bit normal, though, but he's got marks on him. So you start to wonder, but then he pulls the lamp over and everything and says, here, look, this is the bug that bit me. And for a while there, she swears to God that she can't see anything. And he may just totally be insane. But then as the movie progresses, she starts to believe him more and more through his persuasion and his raving paranoid monologues. And she starts to... They both begin to get under the impression that there are bugs, millions of bugs, inside their skin feeding off of their blood. And they're being eaten from the inside out. And the big question is this really happening, or are they just fucking crazy? Because nobody else can see the bugs. But they start to have scratches all over them, and then by the end, Shannon's covered and just... He's always slapping himself and scratching himself and convulsing around. Which brings up one thing about this movie, is whether or not you enjoy Bug depends on how seriously you're taking it. Because the movie can be seen in a lot of ways. You can take it seriously and maybe believe them, or you can take it seriously and realize that they're psychos and just go with it. And it can be a really, really frightening experience and really, really intense. However, I also can understand if this movie is really hard to take seriously. Because you just kind of have to... It's a very... Much like... This is another thing they have a lot in common. Bug is one of those movies where you just kind of have to laugh with it. Because you don't really know what to do. You don't know if they're crazy, you don't know if it's real, you have no idea what to believe, or even how to react at the crazy shit you're looking at. So you just kind of have to laugh with it. I loved when Bravo was doing that thing where they had the scary movie moments, and random people would talk about, scary movies and what made them what they were. And Bug was on one of those lists. And I love the guy that said, when I saw Bug, I was in the theater all by myself and it was late at night, and when the movie came on, I thought I was being punished. Because it was it was like a Clockwork Orange style therapy or something. Because it just gets more and more insane as it goes. And of course he keeps talking about how he could potentially have an egg sac under his tooth, and he keeps talking about how badly his tooth hurts. In that scene everybody loves. This is the kind of scene everybody loves in a movie. That really, really intense scene where he just grabs the pliers and starts to rip his teeth out in the bathroom mirror. With no aid whatsoever. There's just, it's a very bloody affair. And then we get to a point where we start to learn that Peter was in the military, I think the army. And there are moments where we start to hear, like, everything will go dark and we'll see, like it's spotlights coming through the motel, and we'll hear helicopter sounds and everything is shaking. For a while we don't know what the fuck that is, but I guess we're supposed to assume that he's having, war hallucinations. And then we learn that there is an army doctor that has been at the beginning, he's being all paranoid and saying, I can't leave this place and you can't tell anybody about me because there's people after me. And we think, maybe he owes people money or something. But it turns out that there's, a doctor that's looking for him, and he has basically escaped the the hospital he was in. And it's... After a while, just the places this movie goes... Well, we kind of get a tease at the beginning, which I kind of wish they didn't do, because I don't really know why it's there, unless it's to just kind of set you up, and if it wasn't there, it would make the beginning seem too slow or something. But we're kind of teased at the very beginning of that shot of the doctor covered in blood, laying in the room, and the room's covered with foil. For the last act of the movie, at some point in a scene transition, they have covered the entire room in foil and put up a bunch of bug zappers, and it gives the whole room this eerie blue glow. And both of them are just totally out of their minds, and we can see how deeply they've been scratching themselves all over, and it's really fucked up. And then the doctor shows up, and the paranoia goes to a whole other level, where Peter is under the impression that this doctor, who has been sent to kind of take him back, and he even says, we'll cut you open, we'll take the bugs out, and we'll help her find her daughter, or her son. And, that's really, because she's they know about her son, obviously they can help if they know. And then Peter seems to come to the conclusion that this is not a doctor, but a machine that has been sent in to kill them. So he takes a knife and slaughters the doctor in very bloody fashion. And then there's that very darkly funny moment where they're just, everything is a conspiracy now. Every single thing. Like, Harry Connick Jr.'s in on it, the doctor's in on it, her friend from the bar is in on it. There's a scene towards the very end where a pizza guy comes to the door. And they just kind of throw a 20 out there and say, just leave it. And then he's like, but if we don't go out there and get the pizza, they'll know that we know. So they open the door real quick and she has to run out and grab the pizza and come back in. And she just kind of, they start digging through the pizza looking for bugs and shit. Like, oh shit, they're on to us. And this movie just goes to completely insane levels. And of course, the very last scene where they finally, Ashley Judd comes to the conclusion that this was all a conspiracy to make her the super mother bug. And she starts chanting that at the top of her lungs at the complete height of insanity. And they douse themselves in gas and blow up the motel with them in it, is the last shot. So yeah, it kind of has that build where it kind of starts off where it's, you know, very quiet and there's a looming doom going on, but nothing really overpowering. And then as it goes, you kind of sense that something's off. You throw in Harry Connick Jr.'s character to kind of, you know, add a certain threat to the story. But at that point, you have no idea where it's going, and that it gets to that point. And for the love of God, Shannon is fantastic as always. I don't know how many times I've complimented Shannon in reviews, because I can't do it enough.
No.
Just Michael Shannon is genius in practically everything he has ever done on camera. I know people will question Zod, but
nope.
Other things. Ashley Judd here, however, this totally is not an Oscar movie. And this was never going to be. This is just not their thing at all. Friedkin was at a time, but not anymore. But Ashley Judd gives like this insane, riveting yet frightening, yes, Oscar-worthy performance. It was in 2007, which was like, you know, one of the greatest years for movies ever. But even then, even with that kind of competition, she was still totally worthy. And I would have put her in a top 5. So yes, it is certainly an experience, and I love showing it to people when it first came out, because people just have no idea what the fuck to say about it. They just kind of watch it and they experience it and they say, "Holy shit," and then they go away silently. So yes, it's definitely a fun time. If, you know, totally terrifying, but in that great fun way. Like being inside, you know, a haunted house. Our second movie, though, totally different.
Yeah.
We're kind of going into that neo-noir genre a little bit. With, we start off and we learn that Emile Hirsch is, very much in debt to, I guess a bookie named Digger Soames. We don't really know, I guess that's what he is. We don't really get a title for him, but, Chris owes him a shitload of money, and keeps losing money, and owing him more money. And he also has a mother that he doesn't get along with. So in the middle of the night, he shows up at his dad's trailer. His dad is Thomas Hayden Church. I will get to him in a minute, but I believe I've mentioned in many videos how much I love Thomas Hayden Church, particularly in this movie, but I will get to that. And we also have, his stepmom Charlotte, who is Gina Gershon, and his sister Dottie, who is Juno Temple. And Dottie is this very childlike girl that, you know, has the bedroom with... I love that she has two people very prominent on the back of her door. It's a very girly room with all, you know, like it has the Dottie letters and the pink walls. And on her door are cutouts of Justin Bieber and young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like third off from the sun, Joseph Gordon-Levitt with the hair. And Chris has come to his dad to say, I really, really need to pay off Digger Soames, but in order to do that, I have an idea. we could kill Mom and get her very large life insurance policy, and in order to do that, we can hire Killer Joe Cooper, who I heard about through an unnamed source. And they kind of get... And at this point in time, the story introduces you to a recurring theme in this movie that you have to get used to immediately. And if you get used to this, that is the absolute best way to enjoy this movie. Because generally in movies, this is a criticism, but with this particular movie and the story and the way it plays out, it's absolutely perfect. Every single character in this movie is a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
Every single person in this movie is the scum of the earth.
There was no one likable in this cast at all.
The closest thing is Dottie, and even she's insane.
Yeah.
So, you have Chris and Ansel having this conversation about this, and they're fighting over the shares. Like, it kind of takes a second to register with Ansel, like, you're gonna kill the woman that was my wife and is your mother, and then immediately it goes into how are we splitting the shares, because Charlotte gets her own share, that's the deal. And then his argument, he says, like, well, you're married to her, you count as one share, and then he's, well, you're gonna kill my ex-wife, I'm the one that found her, I get another share. And you realize that these are fucking sick-ass people.
Yeah, to say the least.
But that's what makes it such sleazy entertainment. Especially since you know that every single person in this movie gets what's coming to them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Nobody leaves this movie unscathed.
Nope.
See, that would have maybe been a criticism, but the fact that everybody does the things that they do, and sooner or later, something happens to them. I mean, every now and then you want the bad guy to get away, but these are characters that really deserve to suffer, and they do just that.
Yes.
Good God, they do just that. And then we're introduced to Joe. A lot of people credit this as one of McConaughey's best performances. A lot of people like him in this more than Dallas Buyers Club. Because it's such a commanding performance. And he's really, I don't think so, but the general consensus is he's a supporting player. The way he walks into the movie, and we kind of get introduced to him through, like, first we see him drive up, and then we see his, like, gloved hand on the driver, or on the steering wheel, and then we see his gun, and then we see his badge, and then we see his boots, and then we see his hat, and then we see his chin and the reflection of the mirror. And then finally, when he goes into the trailer, it's a full reveal of him. And he just kind of asserts that dominance immediately. I love the running joke throughout this movie, is how much Joe has it out for the TV.
Yes.
Because we have Dottie watching the TV really loudly to where she can't hear him come in. And despite the fact that he's just walked into a total stranger's house, the first thing he does is pick up the remote and turn the TV off. And he does that throughout the movie until the very end when he finally just picks it up and destroys it. Because that moment where you see, like, he's confronting Ansel and then you see Ansel's eyes kind of drift over to the TV and that's what sets him off. But anyway, what's really great about this character is just how enigmatic he is. Because we know what he does for a living. But this entire introductory scene with Dottie, he's this really, like, calm, gentle person. And he accepts the coffee, and he talks about how he's not quite Magnum P.I., because Magnum P.I. is a private investigator. He's like, well, I'm real, and he's not, so there's that. And then he listens to all of Dottie's stories, and then tells her the story about the guy who set his genitals on fire. And he's so calm about it. She's like, oh my God, was he alright? No, he wasn't alright. He set his genitals on fire. And then we have that moment where he's still there, though, because we can still kind of get that, because as nice and sweet as he's been to Dottie right now, there's that moment in that same scene where Chris calls him up and says, I got caught up at work, and we need to meet somewhere else. And he just very assertively says, like, do not change plans on me again. And then he and Dottie just go, and everything's great. And then I love this scene where they meet in the abandoned pool hall, and they go over the thing. And Joe's kind of doing his professional thing where he says hi when he comes in, and then doesn't say anything and just kind of surveys the place to make sure nobody's listening, all while Chris is going through this. And he seems really calm, but then just in that really coldly you know he absolutely means it, but he's totally emotionless when he says it about how nobody is to know about this meeting, or about me, or what we talked about here. If anybody does find out, you'll be killed. And he says it in that smooth McConaughey voice.
Yes.
But you know, like, he says it so nonchalantly, but at the same time, you know he means it. And then I love that moment with the, you know, this is serious business you're fucking with. This isn't let's make a deal. And then we get that really nice twisted plot turn of, I'll do the thing where I'll go ahead and kill her and then wait for the life insurance policy to get paid, but you have to give me Dottie. And nobody mentions it until we see it ourselves at the dinner scene, but it's never mentioned, but everybody knows, because it's the, when Chris has to tell Ansel, you know, he wants Dottie, and he's like, wants Dottie for what? Are you that fucking stupid? I love how they all have the redneck accents, too.
Yes.
Just the ultimate trailer trash is depicted in this movie. And that's another thing about that dinner scene, is we know, once again, what he's capable of. But the way he soothes Dottie, like when Ansel wants her to dress up in the dress, but she doesn't want to, and she locks herself in the room, and there's a big fight ensuing, and Ansel almost gets physical with her, but then Joe throws them out and says, "I'll deal with it," and he just tells her a story about fishing and says she can wear whatever she wants, and everything's fine. And then the sex scene happens. To just kind of show you how weird and perverse, but in a great way, this movie is. The one line standing out is, one of the big questions is, how old is Dottie?
Mm-hmm.
Because she acts like a child, but she looks at least like a teenager. But Juno Temple was in her 20s when she played her. I think, according to Tracy Letts, she's supposed to be 15. But then there's the weird, you know, scene where things are happening between the two of them. And he asks, how old are you? And she says, 12. And then you think, oh, that's fucked up. But then he says the line, yeah, I'm 12 too. And you don't know what the fuck is going on. And it's like, that's definitely one of those things Tracy Letts support when he was drunk.
Yeah.
So.
That made sense in my head.
Yeah. So, and I just love it. I love his delivery while he's being real. Before he tells the fishing story, he's trying to soothe her out by saying, like, I really wish I had some funny stories about first dates or casseroles, but I don't. Maybe one will come to me. He's just, like, lost in his own world. But, yes, there's just, as far as being, you know, balancing how sick the movie is with how funny it is, it really just depends on the person.
Yep.
But, yes, this movie is hysterical while being as fucking sick as it is. Like I talked about with the voices. Yes, just, the cast is perfect. Like, you could not have cast more perfect people in these roles. And Thomas Hayden Church in this movie is brilliant.
Yes.
Like, oh my god. I so wish he had gotten awards attention, because this is... Because I talked to a lot of people that go, like, I say that and they're like, really? I mean, he was good, but I thought he was just kind of there. And I was like, no, you didn't see that performance. That performance is amazing.
Yes, it is.
And because I love just the different ways he reacts to things, like the, that little moment where he's in the cellar with Charlotte, and they're talking about taking Dottie to Thrifty and getting her the dress and getting her ready for Joe, and making sure to tell her that it's only going to be Joe there because she thinks it's a whole family gathering. And she's talking about Marshall, the fat kid that she just talked about. And just that look on his face when she says that. What fat kid? And then he goes back into, hey man, you didn't give me my beer money. What fat kid? That little moment where he walks into the restaurant and there's that beer bottle that has a little bit of the bottom that's been left there, and he just picks it up and makes sure there's some in it and just starts drinking it on his way in. And then the ending. There's a lot of things going on here in the ending, but I'll talk about him first while I'm still on him. Ansel goes through a lot in this ending.
Yes.
Because at first there's the moment there at the dinner table when Joe has already, you know, found out about Rex and tracked down Rex and killed him and knows that Charlotte was in on it and has everything that has been going on, Joe knows now. And he's the only one at the dinner table that knows that he knows everything. And Ansel's completely in the dark. And Charlotte knows what she knows. And he's just kind of, you know, playing innocent for a while there because he, as he actually says, I'm never aware. As he slowly, like, the destruction of the TV happens, and then he starts to interrogate Charlotte. And this is also a great time to talk about Gina Gershon and how brilliant she is. Where she accidentally slips and talks about it being 100,000 instead of 50,000. Because only her and Rex were aware of that. And Joe just kind of really, really digs into her to get it out. And she's really, really sticks with it. She is not going to give in. She just keeps saying, well, I meant 50,000, it's 100,000, whatever it is. I don't care. I just said that by accident. And she really, really sticks to it, all the way up until he has his hand around her throat over the sink. Like when she calls him a piece of shit, and the way he grabs her to where he's choking her practically to death over the sink. And he says, now there's no need to call me names. I didn't call you any names. Now, if you don't confess, I'm going to cut your face off and wear it as my... And I love that line. Because he says it twice.
And that's his delivery, too.
He says it calmer the second time. Now, if you don't confess, I will cut your face off and wear it as my...
And he'll do it, too.
He's so goddamn scary in that.
I know.
And I guess, Emil Hirsch was saying in an interview, like, I guess, like, McConaughey was kind of in... McConaughey's one of those actors where he was kind of in that mode.
Nice.
Before they shot it. Just to make sure he was there. In that great moment where we finally have the reveal of the pictures that Charlotte's been hiding of her and Rex. The extremely explicit ones. And he has to go up to Ansel and say, is that your dick, Ansel? How about this? Is this your dick? Nope. That is definitely not my dick. And just how... Dude, when you watch this ending, you just cannot believe what you're witnessing.
Yeah, it's disturbing in every way possible.
And then, because you have the chicken leg moment, where he just absolutely degrades Charlotte after everything. And this is just for pure humiliation for all of them. Like, he does it... Ansel starts puking, and Charlotte just she has no choice. He's practically jamming it down her throat. And basically, like, mimicking climax while he's doing it. Talking about how when Chris shows up, he's gonna kill all of them. And it's just this sadistic shit.
Yeah.
But it's so insane that it's just fantastic. Like, how can you not say, this is so insane, it's actually kind of brilliant.
And you can imagine it as a play, too, especially that scene.
Yeah, apparently the play is set entirely in the trailer. I'm not sure how they cover some plot points with that, but I guess they handle it. Or maybe he added some stuff to the screenplay, but... and amidst all, this carnage, there's still that stuff in there, like, the visual gag that's timed just right, where after we've seen what he's done to the mother and then the remains when he blows them up, we have the scene in the lawyer's office where Ansel has that thread hanging off of his sleeve, and Charlotte goes to pull it off for him, and the entire fucking sleeve comes off. It's like this really brilliantly placed slapstick moment in the middle of all this sick, twisted carnage. And then, of course, we have the scene where basically everything that has happened in the movie up to this point comes back to Chris.
Yep.
This is all fucking Chris's fault.
And he pays for it.
So, we have the scene where Joe says that since the money can't be found, the check was made out to Rex, and Rex is gone. They were never going to get the money now. He's going to take Dottie and leave forever. And, Chris tries to be the hero and say, I'm not going to let that happen. Chris not realizing that he cannot take Joe. He's been getting the shit beat out of him the whole movie. And he thinks he can take Joe now. So, this is when the can of pumpkin comes in.
Yes.
And everything happens all at once here. What all is it now? Charlotte breaks a glass jar over his head and takes him to the ground. And then Joe starts punching him, then grabs the can of pumpkin and starts smashing his face in, literally. And then just when Chris has enough time to stand up, Charlotte takes a steak knife and starts stabbing him in the back. And while he's beating him with the pumpkin can, Ansel comes up and grabs him by the legs and holds him and says, "I got him, Joe! Kill him!"
He's trying to help. Ansel's just trying to help.
And then all of this, Dottie comes in to save the day with the gun. And shoots all fucking 3 of them. Shoots Chris dead. Shoots Ansel. We don't know if he dies, probably. And then the movie ends before she can shoot Joe in the head. Which she probably does. And then, you know, she killed a cop in Texas. She's probably done for, too. So, God knows what happens to Charlotte. About that, it might be a little confusing if people aren't really looking into it about why she would shoot Ansel and Chris. And Joe to an extent, I guess. Because she's kind of been the character that's been used and abused through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like she was, when they thought she was the beneficiary, they were going to use her to get the money. And she was, you know, basically Joe's sex toy until they got the money. And everybody's just degrading to her. And then that moment where Ansel, like, grabs her ass while she's in the dress and stuff. And how we're learning through the whole movie just how close her and Chris are. Like, Chris is uncomfortably close to her. So, what I've always assumed, and I guess you're supposed to assume, is there's a lot of incest going on.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because they're trailer trash, and, you know, we can assume she was being sexually used by Ansel, Chris, and Joe. And so
that makes sense to me, too.
That's what brings the ending forth, when she just goes completely off and just kills all of them. So yes, this is a wicked ass movie.
And it's great to watch theatrically, too.
Yes, twice for me.
You're welcome.
And I just love how, there's just, on top of the plot itself being very sick and twisted, but intriguing, it also has some really ingenious plot turns, like with the whole Rex coming in and how he was the beneficiary, and then Charlotte being involved with him because we learned that Rex pretty much fucks anything, and she already knew Rex through the mother, and just how all of this happened and all these web of lies and how it all came together, and how everybody ends up getting what they deserve. It's just a really ingenious movie, and I really consider it sincerely to be a masterpiece.
It's an awesome
sick,
movie.
Twisted, fucked up masterpiece, and I love it so much. And it's definitely, with time, I'm sure it'll no doubt be considered a personal favorite. I could say that right now, but I like to give things time. The movie's only, this year it'll be 3 years old, but that's still pretty new. So yes, Bug is fantastic and definitely great for a wild-ass, frightening time, but Killer Joe all day, every day.
Indeed. So it's another edition of Versus. Hopefully you watched AJ's movie reviews talking about 50 Shades of Grey and Kingsman, in addition to The Voices, which you mentioned a little bit ago in this review, and Old Fashioned, if you're looking for that.
I don't know why we saw that.
Yeah. Both of us joined Ashley for our Oscar predictions yesterday, if you want to check that out. You haven't yet. Tomorrow, Celebrity Apprentice, one last video before then. Of course, I'm going to talk NXT TakeOver Rival, as well as Impact Wrestling, Vlog of Random and Sip and Snack. Next week, AJ's movie reviews. McFarlane USA, Hot Tub Time Machine 2, and The Duff. So that's coming. Next week, Versus, it's Oscar Sunday, so we're going to delve into Oscar world. So I'm not going to give you a cryptic comment. I'm just going to say that Oscar has something to do with it. So best way I can put it without giving anything away. So that being said, thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and thank you for continuing to watch Versus. If you have ideas for Versus, you know how to get a hold of me. Tweet me at SirOwenDisney, email me SirOwenDisney@gmail.com, and you can send your ideas to us. We may use them. We have used a lot of Versus that people have given us ideas for, so who knows, maybe it might be yours next time. So that being said, thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and AJ, any parting words?